Hello and welcome to the Coffee Milk Hour. My name is Gerry, and just Gerry today. Jordan is in another state. This is going to be kind of an exclusive episode. I'd like to talk about something that's been on my mind for a little while now, and I wanted to come to you guys and see what your thoughts and opinions were. And where we go moving forward. So today what I'd like to speak about is the 2016 election in regard to both Trump and Hillary Clinton and the media, and what the media's involvement is supposed to be. So in past elections, as far as the media is concerned, viewers had many places to go to get their news. If you watch Fox News, you're probably more conservative, leaning Republican, and you can go to Fox to listen to people who agree with you, and you know that you can go to MSNBC as a Democrat or a liberal to know that you can listen to people who agree with you. Not that the news that either one of these networks is much different, and not that any of it is necessarily not factual, but news outlets are able to take certain facts and spin them in such a way that is more pleasing to either the liberal or conservative ear. CNN might be somewhere in the middle, maybe slightly left-leaning. NBC and CBS may be a little bit more moderate. People who want just the news, dry news, usually go to NPR. Some say BBC, and there are a variety of other outlets out there now. But this election has been different. This election, especially with the rise of Donald Trump, the news media has come under scrutiny, and its trustworthiness has been called into question, and they almost don't seem to know what to do. So what I'd like to do this episode is kind of take a look at our candidates and the media and what the actual statistics are for each candidate, and whether there's any validity to the truth that the media is actually trying to control all of us sheeple. So let's dive in. The first thing that I hear, first, let me make it clear. I am a Democrat. I have voted for Hillary Clinton. That being said, I'm going to try to be as unbiased in this assessment of facts as I can. Feel free to take issue with me wherever you'd like. But moving forward, just keep in mind that if there is some bias coming through, it's because I am, in fact, a Democrat and a bleeding heart liberal. So the first thing I'd like to talk about, the first thing I really hear a lot, is that Trump gets unfair amounts of media coverage. He gets more negative media coverage, a lot of people say, than Hillary Clinton. So I did some research, and I found a poll from the Washington Post, who I personally deem to be a reputable news source, and we'll get to this a little bit later. But I found an article from the Washington Post. This was from September 20th of this year by John Sides, and he posts some really interesting statistics. So first, he's got a graph, and it's the media's attention on both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton since July 2015 right up through August of 2016. And what this shows is that up until October 2015, both candidates received relatively even coverage, and this is mostly in print. This doesn't really take into account television, but these are print articles with either candidate's name in the headline. So through October 2015, they're about even. But after October 2015, Donald Trump's name is mentioned in headlines. He jumps from about 800 articles per month to almost 1,700, while Hillary Clinton is only getting about 600 articles per month. She peaked at about 900 in July of 2016. That was her high point. Otherwise, she averaged between 400 and 500 articles per month. And so Trump is getting a lot more media attention. And a lot of people might say, well, that's a good thing. The more you're in the media, the more you're driving headlines, the more attention you get. And in Trump's case, he doesn't have to pay for it. He generates his own headlines. So in a typical election, this type of coverage, this type of unprecedented coverage, would be considered a godsend. He's not paying for advertising. He's getting free print all over the place. Much like people think that Clinton in the primaries, there was kind of a media shutdown of Bernie Sanders, a Democrat might argue that there's been a shutdown of Hillary Clinton since October 2015, just on the fact that she has not covered nearly as much as Donald Trump. And in a typical election, if you were Hillary Clinton, this would be an extremely frustrating fact to deal with. However, this is not a typical election, because the reason that Trump is covered so much more is because he's different, but he's also far more vulgar and let's call him erratic than Hillary Clinton is. Compared to Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton seems very, very boring. So before I move on to some of my points, since July 5th of 2015, the media's opinion of the candidates has also changed drastically. In July, Clinton was covered much more favorably. Trump originally was covered relatively favorably, but both of them have kind of they both had an uptick in favorability coming through the winter, and then when we got into primary season, Hillary got into the email scandal. Or that came to the forefront a little bit more, as well as some news about the Benghazi stuff, and her favorability in articles had dropped. Trump's surged around June of this year, June 2016, but since his coverage has kind of gone down, the media's opinion of the candidates, and actually it's both slipped. Both of them have slipped substantially since August, but there is no vast difference in the media's opinion of either candidate. So when people say the media is against Trump, statistics show that both candidates are being reported on equally unfavorably. What may be driving these numbers, negative versus positive, is something I kind of want to explore myself. So we have the two candidates, Hillary Clinton, number one. Hillary Clinton has some pretty negative stories over the last couple of years, but especially in this election season. The email story, the email scandal, has by far been the largest issue that Hillary Clinton's had to deal with. And I'm talking about the emails when she had the private server and she deleted 33,000 of her personal emails. And she went through the FBI investigation and was sat in front of Congress for 11 hours straight during that interview. I'm talking about that email scandal. That drove news and negative coverage of Hillary Clinton. And coming into the primary, she was seen very favorably by all Democrats, and that email scandal really brought her back down to earth to a point where she was only competitive with Bernie Sanders in the primary, and it was a very close race. Benghazi haunted her early on, hasn't really come up too much in the presidential election, but there was the Benghazi scandal. But moving forward in the election, I can only come up with a handful of negative events that Hillary Clinton has kind of brought upon herself. The first was the basket of deplorable comments that she made in reference to most Trump supporters, which she later backtracked and said that there are some people that support him that she would consider a basket of deplorables. That got her some negative news attention. Next was the DNC hack. All facts, as Hillary Clinton has stated, and every news outlet that I put faith in, this includes Fox News, shows or has reported that all facts lead to Russia, the state of Russia, country, being behind the hack of the DNC emails. With these emails, with this hack, came the conspiracy against Bernie Sanders, which did not go over well with most people, and I still don't think sits well with most people. And then this new leak of emails concerning one of the chairs on her campaign, John Podesta, his emails came out leaking what seems to be mostly, honestly, strategy. I don't see anything damning about the emails that came out from John Podesta other than saying essentially that they would be hoping for the weaker candidates on the Republican side to get the nomination. And if I'm a political strategist, I think that's something that you hope for from both sides. Bernie Sanders has come out and said if you saw his emails about Hillary from the primary, they wouldn't be very good either. Not to defend the DNC hack, but I think the idea here is that if the RNC or any other candidate honestly was hacked, there'd be unfavorable, not so pretty emails under all of their campaigns. But you have the DNC hack, you have the conspiracy against Bernie Sanders, you have the John Podesta emails come out, and then finally last week a video came out where someone in a super PAC that supported Hillary Clinton was talking about inciting violence during Trump campaigns. Though there's no evidence to support that that actually happened, the video was enough to certainly cause some controversy. Off the top of my head, those are the big Clinton gaffes in this election. Those are the big ones, and they've all gotten coverage, every single one of them. As someone who kind of imbibes news 24 hours a day, well, not 24, but 12 hours a day, these are the big stories that get reported about Hillary Clinton. And they're still talking about her original email scandal, and they're still talking about the DNC hack, and they're still talking about the John Podesta emails. So these things haven't gone away for Hillary Clinton. But conversely, if you look at Donald Trump, and just by the numbers, you look at the things that have been controversial that he's said, they not only demand more coverage, but they're more numerous. So right away, policy-based, he said, let's build a wall, which is an extremely controversial policy. It's not wrong of him to say, it's not wrong for him to bring it up, but it's a controversial policy that he had built into his presidency, so he talked about the wall. With the wall, he eventually talked about banning all Muslims, which did not go over well with a lot of people and garnered a lot of news attention. He blatantly made fun of a handicapped reporter. He said that he preferred members of the military who were not captured, in reference to John McCain, saying essentially that he had more respect for soldiers who did not become POWs than he did for soldiers who didn't get captured. He took issue with the Gold Star family that spoke at the DNC, the Khan family. That went on for well over a week. He did not apologize to the family. He did not give them the respect they deserved. The media still talking about that. He implied that Ted Cruz's father was somehow involved in the JFK assassination. The Access Hollywood tape that just came out, where he said that he had no issue groping women because he was rich and famous, only for a week later for sexual assault accusers to start saying that he had in fact sexually assaulted them, and more than 10 women have come forward at this point. The Alicia Machado incident, where he said that, where Hillary Clinton said that he basically objectified her, told her she had to lose weight. She was a contestant in the Miss Universe. She actually won the Miss Universe pageant, which he at the time controlled. He tried to degrade her. Said that there was a sex tape of Alicia Machado. No sex tape or evidence has come forward. Said that Hillary Clinton probably got her legalization status as a citizen here in the U.S., which is also absurd. So that information came out. In a debate, he said that it's smart to avoid taxes through the current tax loopholes, which did not go over well, which the media covered very extensively. And finally, in this most recent debate, he called Hillary Clinton a nasty woman, which more than anything has seemed to empower women on the liberal left. But the fact he said it did not go very far in proving that he has respect for women anywhere, even though also in the last debate he said no one has more respect for women than he does. So yes, it seems like Trump might get more negative news attention, but the fact of the matter is that he's just far more of an inflammatory figure. While Hillary Clinton has some large scandals looming over her campaign, Donald Trump seems to make an inflammatory or derogatory controversial statement once or twice per week. And if you're not going to apologize and you're not going to back down from those statements, then they're not going to go away. Unfortunately, due to this kind of dance that Trump is doing with the media, the integrity of the media has, I think, been unfairly called into question. You have a candidate in Donald Trump who's running for the highest elected office in our country, and he's saying like him, don't like him, whatever he's saying is very, very, very controversial. He's saying things that a normal candidate, any other year, any other cycle, if they had said any one of those things, they would not have made it through the primary. He is an atypical candidate. There's never, ever, ever been a candidate like Donald Trump. There has never been so much public forgiveness for a figure like Donald Trump. But the media has an obligation to cover him as a serious candidate for the presidency, as they do Hillary Clinton. I'm sick of hearing about Clinton's emails, but the press is still reporting on Clinton's emails. They're still reporting on the DNC hack. They're still reporting on the John Podesta incident. However, those are the three big things they have to talk about. But with Trump, you have 20 or 30 different small things that you can kind of pick on any given day, any of which would either have consequence to his electorate, as in they should directly influence the electorate one way or the other, or they're purely controversial, they've never been done before, they're historic in that way, and the media has an obligation to cover. But Trump wants to be both controversial and accepted at the same time. So when the media negatively reports on his, let's call it negative behavior, he, rather than owning what he said, and he doesn't own what he says, but he doesn't do it in a way that's been deemed publicly acceptable. He tries to spin it as the media attacking him, that there is a war of the media on him. And this is really interesting to me, because if you're going to say controversial things about women, about your policies, I mean, his policies are very controversial. If you're going to make these very, very bold, brash statements and expect the media to somehow just go along with it and not challenge you, you are a little bit delusional as a person. I've got 3 questions written here, and the first I want to address is, what is the public's expectation of the media? As a member of the public, my expectation of the media is simple: to obtain the facts, to vet those facts, and prove through multiple sources usually that those facts are actually true, and then to take those facts and report them to the public. The new media likes to go through that process and then kind of spin the facts in a storytelling way that will favor one side or the other politically. But at the base of it are true, vetted facts that have been proven, verified through multiple sources to be true. When the major media outlets are reporting to the general public, they're reporting things that they have found to be validated by multiple sources so that they feel comfortable going forward. Because if the media reports something incorrectly and they lose the trust of the public, not only do their ratings suffer, but it takes a long time for their integrity to come back up. So it's a really big deal for the media to report factual, vetted information. Trump is accusing the media of just spewing lies or spinning things the wrong way, and I think this is really, really dangerous. I found an article from PolitiFact, and they took all the statements by the candidates over the course of the election, and they found that of all the statements that Trump has made, 53%, over half of Trump's statements, are entirely false. They are not based in any type of reality. They're things he says just to say them, to please his audiences, to please his base, but they're not true. They are false statements. 53%. Conversely, only 4% of his statements are deemed entirely true. I think the key word here is entirely. With politics, obviously, politicians like to exaggerate or leave some information out. So only 4% of the things that Donald Trump is saying are entirely true, as in factual, vetted, validated information that is known to be true. It is a fact. Conversely, Hillary Clinton has only made 12% of her statements that are entirely false. Only 12%. compared to Trump's 53. And compared to Trump's 4% of entirely true statements, Clinton has made 24% of her statements that are entirely true. Now, 24% is not a good number, but when you're comparing your 24% of your statements to Donald Trump's 4% of actual factual information, that is a massive, massive increase. Hillary Clinton, by those numbers, is honest 20% more of the time than Donald Trump. Entirely factual. So when you are lying 54% of the time, and you're only using facts 4% of the time, the media is going to report, because it is the obligation, it is the job of the media to vet the facts. And if you are running a campaign in which facts do not seem to matter, then logically the media should be covering you in a more negative light, or at least challenging you. But to Trump, a challenge is an assault, and a challenge is bias. And what's frustrating for me as a viewer is watching members of the electorate, especially on social media, siding with Trump and saying that there is a media war against Trump. Which brings me to the next question that I have here. What is the media's role? The media's role is to report information, to vet that information, to challenge these candidates on what they say, and to verify all of the information. If a candidate cannot validate the things that he says, then the public should reduce or change their opinion based on that reporting. But with Trump, it's the opposite. If the media challenges Trump, his base and many people in the electorate defend Trump's lies rather than support the media's effort to challenge him. The media has challenged Hillary Clinton on her emails. The Senate has challenged Hillary Clinton on her emails, and she gives responses, and you might not like them, but she never comes out and says, the media is against me, this is a conspiracy against me, these email things that they never should have come forward, it's a complete and total lie. That's rhetoric you hear from Donald Trump. All these women are telling lies. It never happened. He never really issued an apology for the Access Hollywood video. He never issued an apology for making fun of the reporter. So he does all these things, but he doesn't apologize. He doesn't backtrack, and then he blames the media for essentially reporting on it in a responsible way. Then he spins it. So he tells all these lies. He rebukes the media challenges, and then he says that the system is rigged, that there is going to be voter fraud, that because the media is against Trump, the whole election is rigged. Your votes aren't going to be counted. All the polls are wrong. And again, Trump is someone who apparently looks at these online polls that are conducted in a BuzzFeed fashion or done very quickly where you can vote multiple times, or maybe on websites that automatically have bias built in, and he says that going by those polls he's winning, or he won this debate or that, when all the national media polls that have an obligation for fact-checking and truth say completely different. Donald Trump feels like he knows better, and he undermines the working media of this nation, which isn't always unbiased, but they do have an obligation to report factual statistics, and for the most part they do. So it's dangerous, I believe, for Trump to be calling into question the integrity of the entire American journalism system just because in essence he's losing. Which brings me to my final question, which is, what is the responsibility of the consumer? Us, the voters, the electorate. When I watch MSNBC, when I watch Rachel Maddow or Chris Matthews or Bill Maher, even he's on HBO, but when I watch MSNBC, I know that I am watching a left-leaning liberal media outlet. I know that. That's a fact. If I tune to Fox News, I know that I am watching a right-leaning biased media outlet. And I can listen to everything they say, and I, as a consumer of news, should be able to delineate what's factual and what's being twisted a little bit. And I think that's the responsibility, to pretend that somehow watching one of these news outlets is a brainwashing mechanism is a little bit absurd, because I think anybody knows if you watch Fox News, you're watching a conservative, usually Republican-leaning network. And so if you watch them, and if you're a Republican, you watch them because they agree with you, they make you feel good. But I don't think anyone out there is going to make the argument that Fox News is brainwashing people, just like people who watch MSNBC aren't being brainwashed by MSNBC. They already know their political affiliation. They already know where they stand on the issue, so they watch the news network that best aligns with their interest. And it's a better product for them. And if you watch CNN, which is usually more in the middle, you'd get something a little more, a little less biased either way. But as a consumer, when you do see bias come through, even on something like CNN, you should have the ability to think, that definitely, I know what the facts are. I know what the facts are there, and this is being spun a little bit, and I can recognize that. What's dangerous is accusing all the media, any media that spins anything a little bit, of somehow brainwashing the public. Because the fact of the matter is, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, CBS, NBC, BBC, NPR, they are all reporting factual information. They are all adhering to journalistic integrity. They may report things in different ways. They may use slightly different channels to do it, but they are all reporting factual information. And I think it's really funny in this election, when people who buy into this Trump conspiracy that the media is somehow against him, these people are reading Breitbart, which is news that is literally run by Trump's campaign manager. He literally runs Breitbart. Or they're looking at WikiLeaks, which in this election clearly has an agenda against the Democratic Party. Or they're reading anonymous news, which clearly has an agenda against the anonymous party. So these people who think there's a conspiracy are buying into media that is arguably more biased than any of the major news networks in this country. They're getting it from online content that does not have to adhere to any level of journalistic standard. And it's really, really scary when a part of the electorate is getting their news from essentially garbage websites that don't have any obligation to report the facts. They're getting their news and it's all lies, or it's really, really twisted facts. I'll admit that when I watch Rachel Maddow, there's a little bit of a left-leaning bias there, and maybe the stories that she chooses to cover are things that I'm more interested in as opposed to a conservative would be. But I think even if a conservative were to watch her show, they might disagree with the way they may disagree with her opinions, but they can't disagree with facts. When you look at news like Breitbart News, or you look at news like this anonymous news that's on Facebook constantly, these are not based in any factual information, and they're spun and exaggerated to the point where they're essentially calling for some type of political revolution, but in all the wrong ways. Like, the media is against everybody, the government's against everybody, and just looping it in. And it's paranoia at a toilet paper level, except people are buying into it. I think what I'm trying to say with all of this is that if you are a smart consumer of news and you uphold your own responsibility to watch the news and be able to differentiate between fact and then spin opinion, then you really shouldn't be upset with the media. And even as a Trump supporter, if you support Trump, at least understand that he's an inflammatory character who has said some very, very controversial things, and he's gotten away with a lot more than any other presidential candidate in the history of our country has ever been allowed to get away with, ever. Bill Clinton had a sex scandal while in the White House. Donald Trump has a sex scandal and like 12 other things. And it's still, no one's calling for the pre-impeachment of Trump. So be careful how quickly, I would say, I would argue that we need to be careful about how quickly we get hyped up about these conspiracy theories. I personally believe that American journalism is still an institution with a lot of integrity, and that there is still a lot of fact-checking going on, that the stories that get published, especially in print, go through a rigorous vetting process in which multiple sources have to verify facts in order for them to go to publication. I'd really like everybody's opinion on their view of the media, on whether or not you're one of the people that are investing in things like Breitbart News, or even things that are super left and outrageous like Occupy Democrats, or any of the weird conservative stuff that pops up on my news feed. Because I think if you're, especially in social media, I think if you're reposting a bunch of those news articles as if they're fact, we're in trouble as a country. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. This has been a Coffee Milk Hour exclusive. I know that it's far less funny without Jordan being here. We're hoping to get this back on the road soon. Hopefully we can do another one for you guys in a couple of weeks, and we hope to get back to you with the full version of the Coffee Milk Hour. This has been an exclusive. I'm Gerry. Have a good one.